my name, if you are joining for the first time, I'm Alex Bornman. I am the Orientation and Mobility Specialist at Lighthouse for the Blind. And I'm also a certified personal trainer, which is kind of my specialty before I was an orientation and mobility instructor. So today we're going to be talking about some orientation and mobility tips, and then we're going to move on to some exercises that you can do at home to keep yourself active and just getting that blood flowing while you're kind of in our stay-at-home orders. So to start off with, I'm going to review what we talked about last week. So we talked about orienting to a new space. We talked about the things that one would need to be able to explain to somebody else in order to be able to better understand of what's going on. So if you had someone guiding you into a new area, you would be able to explain to them exactly what you need to know. So we talked about how to use all your senses and ask the person to describe what's around you. Ask them to describe the directions that they are turning you, how they're going to be taking you throughout a room or a space. It's really important to make sure that the way that someone guides you through a new space is more of a systematic approach, whether that be a grid, a maze, or a spiral, something that you would be able to remember going back. And then you would use all your senses: touch, smell, audio, your usable vision, any of those that would be able to be used when you're going back into that space again. It's okay to ask what's happening around you, what's going on. Describe things in a normal tone, so making sure that they're not like kind of changing octaves while they're explaining, which I didn't really talk about last week, but making sure that everything is at a normal tone, because if it's not in a normal tone, you could actually miss other sound cues. So the next thing we're going to talk about is street crossings. What we want to do when we're street crossing, so the thing we're going to do when we're street crossing is analyzing risks. So apart from learning what a basic intersection looks like and studying that intersection, we need to analyze what the risks are of that intersection. So whether that be recognizing what or the amount of lanes that are in that intersection, and then analyzing what kind of intersection it is. So we're looking if it's a lighted intersection. Is it a crosswalk without stop signs, with stop signs? Does it have an APS system, which means that's the automated pedestrian signal? So does it have a button? Does it have a signal across the street to make sure that cars know that a pedestrian can cross at this time and they need to yield to pedestrians? Is there nothing? Is there not even a crosswalk in this area? Because there are areas that don't have crosswalks yet. So analyzing the risks of each intersection, what kind of right turning lane is there? Is there a left turning lane? How many lanes of left and right turns are there? So the two top risks when crossing a street is the parallel traffic turning right from behind you, and also the parallel traffic turning left towards you. So anything that's going into the crosswalk that you're walking into, anything that's turning into that crosswalk. So sometimes at lighted intersections, they have green lights and not green arrows, but those people may think that those green lights are an okay time to turn right or left, which is okay, but sometimes they don't recognize that there's a pedestrian about to cross the street. So the number one thing is when you first go to an intersection is to analyze what that intersection looks like. Now I'm talking strictly lighted intersections rather than stop sign intersections. So in the lighted intersections, you need to make sure that you're listening to what the cycles sound like in about 3 to 4 rounds prior to even crossing an intersection. Study what that sounds like. So making sure that we know how many lanes it sounds like it has. Is there left turning? Do people turn left and at a certain time and then stop? So we know that, okay, it is a controlled left turn lane, or is there a right controlled turn lane? So analyzing all those little things that are a part of an intersection. The next thing we need to know is how our crosswalks are being pointed. Are they pointing directly into the crosswalk, or are they pointed directly into the middle of the street? Because all crosswalks are different. There's actually some that are pointed to the middle of the street, but then when you cross, the other ones are pointed into the crosswalk. So making sure that you're able to recognize where your crosswalks are pointing. So aligning yourself with traffic. So you want to be able to align where your direction is. You want to make sure you're hearing those cars go by your ear and in front of your body at a normal tone. So making sure that they're crossing at a rate where you don't feel like you're necessarily facing your parallel traffic, but they're only going on your one side of your body. A way to reduce the risk when turning for left and right turning cars when you're crossing a street is to do a clockwise crossing. So taking away that risks of the counterclockwise crossing is actually going to make it a little bit safer. So when we cross clockwise, all the cars that are turning left or right should see us in the crosswalk prior to even wanting to turn. So if they're paying attention as drivers, and as we know, not all drivers are paying attention, but as we are crossing a street, remember that crossing clockwise is actually going to be the most safest and efficient way to cross a street if you are worried about left and right turning vehicles. This will reduce the risk because as a car turns right during a green with your parallel surge traffic, they'll see you in the crosswalk before turning right and hopefully react to you coming towards them. As a left turning vehicle that's coming from behind you and turning left into your crosswalk, they'll be able to see you in the middle of the crosswalk before turning left. Another way to limit the risks of a left turning vehicle is to make sure you really listen for that initial surge of traffic and not to confuse your right turning with your parallel surge. So you got to make sure that the cars that you go with are the ones that are going parallel with you on the closest side of the street. So if you are crossing clockwise, the cars are going, your initial surge is going to be on your right side. If you are crossing counterclockwise, the cars are going to be on your left side closest to you. So it's whatever street side is closest to you is going to be your initial surge of traffic. So again, if you are, and then another thing is if you're going clockwise, the cars are going to be coming towards you. And if you're going counterclockwise, the cars are going to be going with you. So remember those two key things. So crossing clockwise, the cars are on your right side, coming towards you is your initial surge of traffic. And when you're going counterclockwise, the cars are going to be on your left side going with you across the street. Another thing that we need to be mindful of when we're crossing streets and risks that there are right turn on red vehicles. So there are going to be cars that are at the perpendicular street, and as you're crossing, they're going to be coming up to the crosswalk and they could be turning right, and they're not going to notice you because sometimes cars can turn right on red. Now they are supposed to yield or stop before turning, but sometimes they pull past the crosswalk and they go right as close as they can to the lane that they want to turn into, and they just go for it. So you got to be mindful and listen to your traffic to make sure that there's no cars, and using your cane to alert in front of you that you are coming. So right before you hit that right turn lane when you're crossing the street, listening for any cars that are coming up towards you. And then as soon as you get close to that edge, you got to get off the street as quick as possible, making sure that you're exiting that area as soon as possible, which you should even get into a crosswalk and out of a crosswalk as soon as you possibly can. Another risk that you have is veering. Veer recovery is going to be a really important aspect of crossing streets. So you gotta know how to recover your veers prior to crossing a street, knowing what the safest way is if you were to veer left or right on how to get yourself back to where you need to be. So one thing to remember when you're veering is listening to your traffic. And any time that we're crossing streets is always listening to our traffic. If you veer and you veer, be mindful of the fact that you veer far to the left, far to the right. You are going to have a pattern of veering. Most people do. Just know how you veer. So when you cross that street, you know what the direction you may go towards in order to recover that veer. When we're crossing streets, if we veer too far to the right, we're probably going to hit a curb or a car prior. We're going to hit a stopped car or a curb before we actually hit the up ramp. So if that happens, there's two things that you can do. One would be sweep your cane to the left and right, about 180 degrees, finding if you are near the up ramp. And if you don't, then what you can do is, one, turn to the left and find that ramp to get you up on the ramp as quick as possible if you don't find the ramp on the initial sweep. Or you can clear the area in front of you. So what you're going to do is, on top of that curb, in the grass or whatever is in front of you, you're going to make an X shape and then step up on the curb. The X shape actually makes sure that there's nothing in your way. So when you step up, you don't run into a pole, a light box, a stop sign, whatever. So clearing your area with your cane. So making an X in front of you with your cane, clearing that area, and then stepping up on that curb to get off the street as quick as possible. And then you can use your cane to find that sidewalk again. Or you can turn left and follow along the curb until you find that ramp up to the light, to where the lighted intersection crosswalk is. Now, if we veer to the left, you're going to really notice, because you're going to start hearing cars closer to you than what you realized. So you're going to hear driving cars on your left side or your right side, dependent on where you're going. So I'm kind of going on the counterclockwise spectrum if you're veering right and you're going to veer into cars. But if you veer towards your moving traffic, what you're going to do is you're going to have to go the other direction. So if you start hearing cars closer to your body as you're crossing a street, then you want to go the opposite direction. And that doesn't mean completely make a 90-degree turn to the other side, but just kind of angling your body again back to where you think the crosswalk is and getting there as quick as possible. If you start feeling cars going towards you or coming just on your side a lot closer than you thought before, go the other direction. Just get away from there, but you don't need to turn drastically, because you might still be in the crosswalk or close to it. So if you turn too drastically, then you could turn into perpendicular traffic, and we don't really want that. So just making sure you just angle your body just enough to be able to get you back on track. So if we veer towards perpendicular traffic, what we want to do is find that curb as soon as possible, clear our area in front of us and step up on the curb, or we can turn and fall along the curb to find that up ramp. If we veer towards parallel moving traffic, we want to turn the opposite direction or veer ourselves in the opposite direction until we find that up ramp. If we do have trouble finding that up ramp, just find your closest curb and get on it. And then you can use problem solving skills, traffic, moving, to get yourself back oriented to where you need to be. Now, if you are not great at analyzing traffic on your own, the best route to go is to contact your local orientation and mobility instructor to get you familiarized with the area. That's going to be your number one thing. If you need to familiarize yourself with the area, listen to 3 to 4 cycles of traffic prior to crossing. Even with your orientation and mobility instructor, I recommend 3 to 4 cycles prior to even crossing a street. That way you're going to be able to tell what is going to be happening in front of you, and making sure that you do that during the time of day that you're typically going to be crossing the street. So if you're going to be crossing that street at 10 a.m., you don't need to practice crossing that street at 8 a.m. when there's a high level of traffic, because you're not going to need to know what the traffic patterns are at 8 a.m. You need to know what the traffic patterns are at 10 a.m. And then if you cross again the streets at 5 p.m., then you're going to learn how to cross the streets at 5 p.m. because you want to know what that traffic pattern is like during those times of day that you are going to be crossing that street. Now, if you don't know and it's just kind of random times, then we're going to mix it up. making sure that you cross at different times of day so you can practice all around what that traffic pattern is going to look like. So that is street crossing, analyzing the risks and making sure that you're analyzing the traffic and the intersection that you're about to cross prior to even crossing it. Do we have any questions, comments, any experiences regarding crossing streets that you experienced that were troublesome, or kind of something that you recovered yourself from? Anything there? Doesn't look like it. Okay, awesome.
Hand up.
Oh, Bob has a hand up. I didn't see the raised hand. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning. I had one technique that I used back when I was doing more cane traveling than I am now. I'm bad to veer, and I always intentionally veered slightly away from the parallel street because I didn't mind getting a little way off, a little way away from the intersection, but I very much did not want to wander out into that parallel street.
Yeah.
So I intentionally veered away from that street just slightly.
Yeah, that's a smart way to go for sure. I appreciate that experience. Anything else? I can't see hands raised, so Rebecca or Shauna is going to have to let me know what.
I don't see any others.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to move along to just some exercises that you can do at home to keep yourself active and healthy and moving. Some are going to be ones that you can alter dependent on your strength and abilities, and others are going to be on the harder spectrum, but there's ways that you can change it up or do another exercise in replacement of it. Last week we talked about squat holds against a wall. So that was placing your body and your back against the wall and having your knees bent in a 90-degree angle, which replaces a squat hold without a wall. It helps you create better support. And if you have trouble standing up from a squat or a seated position, it'll help you get back up. We talked about chair/wall push-ups. So if you have trouble going to the floor and doing a push-up, you can use a chair or a wall as your floor. So your hands are on your chair or your wall and you're doing a push-up that way. We talked about crunches, which is something we did on another session with abs. We talked about crunches. If you can't get your whole torso or your back off the floor, you can always just lift your shoulder blades enough to get your top part of your body off the floor. We did calf raises and front shin walks, which are going to be really important when we're walking for cane travel, because it will strengthen our calves and our ankles to be able to walk and keep our balance better. It's also going to keep our ankles stronger. So if we ever were to step off a curb or on a sidewalk and there's a little bit of a dip off the sidewalk, we'll be able to keep our balance just a little bit better if we have strong calves and strong shins. So the calf raises are going to be a good exercise for that. I'm going to review some of these important exercises over others that I think are just kind of extra on the spectrum of blind travel. So I think calf raises is going to be your number one. I recommend a lot of people just in general to do them on a regular basis, because your ankles and calves are what gets you around on a day-to-day routine. So making sure that those are strong and keeping your body balanced are going to be critical to any sort of travel at all. We did high pulls, which are kind of a shoulder and back workout. And then we went over a plank on a chair or on the floor. So we're going to review the calf raises, and we're also going to review squat holds today. And then we're going to do 5 different other exercises to be able to do at home. So I'm going to go over the calf raises first. So I can move my chair now. So when we did the calf raises, I used a chair or I use the wall as to hold my body up and making sure I'm not tipping one way or the other. So when we did calf raises, I started off with my feet just a little bit inside my hips or just kind of straight down in a comfortable position. They're about 4 inches apart. My toes are about 4 inches apart from each other all the way back to my ankles, which are 4 inches apart from each other. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift my body up towards the sky using and getting on the balls of my feet. So I'm lifting my body up so I'm on the balls of my feet and to my toes. I'm making sure that my balls of my feet and my toes are firmly planted on the ground and I'm not tilting my ankles out or tilting them in too much. So they're staying flat on the floor because when we're walking, we want to make sure that our whole foot is being placed on the ground the whole time. So if we're veering one way or tilting our feet one way or the other, that's actually going to cause us those veers. So I'm lifting my body up, making sure that my toes and the balls of my feet are down on the ground, and then I'm letting my body go back down. So I'm lifting my body up, pressing down onto my toes and the bottom of my feet and lifting those heels up and the rest of my body. And then I'm bringing my body down, lightly tapping my heels on the floor and then quickly bringing my body back up off the floor. Now I have my hand on the wall. You can also put your backside against the wall to help you have better balance. You can turn your body to the side where only one hand is on the wall, or you can use a chair, or you can just do it without any support at all, which is going to actually help you gain even more balance because you're going to have to use your ankles and your entire lower half of your body to get yourself up. So those are calf raises. I recommended 3 times of 20 repetitions. So you're doing 20 calf raises 3 times through. So you're doing 20, taking about a minute or so break, doing 20 more, taking a minute break, and then doing 20 again. The next thing I talked about is heel walks. So what I did is I lifted my toes towards my chin. So my toes are now pointed up towards my chin and I'm getting the balls of my feet off the floor where just my heels are now on the ground. And I'm walking on my heels. So, and I'm using the wall to keep my balance. I'm also making sure that my toes are pointed forward the whole time that I'm walking. I'm not tilting one way or the other. My toes aren't pointed in or pointed out too much. They're pointed straight forward. And I'm putting all my weight evenly distributed through my heels. And I'm doing 20 steps. So whether that be the whole wall or you have to turn back and forth, you're going to do 20 steps along your wall, using that wall as your balance. If you don't need a wall to balance and you just want to walk in a room, that's fine too. You're really going to feel that burn in the front of your shins, and that's going to help you maintain a little bit better balance while you're walking. Just in general around your house and all that. So we're going to do 20 repetitions of that. So we did those last week. I recommend doing those every single day to keep your balance, keep your ankles and calves strong. It's a major muscle group that a lot of people forget about. So doing that even from the time that you're 5 to all the way to the time that you're 97, this is a really important exercise to maintaining a proper walk and a healthy travel gait. So the next thing we went over last week is squat holds against a wall. I didn't have a wall last time, but I do have a wall now. And so what we did was we put from our backside all the way up to the top of our head against the wall. And it's like you're sitting in a chair against the wall. Now, my knees are bent at a 90-degree angle. If you need to, it's totally fine. If you can't get that low, you can also bring your backside up off the wall a little bit higher so you're seated. The angle that your knees make is a little bit wider, and it's at about, I'd say about 120 degrees rather than 90. That way, it's easier for you to get up. Another thing that you can do to help you get up is put a chair next to you So if you're sitting down at a 90-degree angle and you're gonna have trouble getting back up, you can use that chair next to you to push yourself back up and use your hand against the back of the wall to get yourself up off the wall. So I'm gonna go back down. I'm at a 90-degree angle, so my feet are stacked right below my knees, and my hips are directly behind my knees. My backside is against the wall, along with my spine, which is perfectly in line. My lower back is pressed against the wall, all the way up to my shoulder blades, and my head is also against the wall. So everything is perfectly in line and stacked on top of each other. My feet are about at hip width apart along with my knees, and I'm just holding this position. Now, I'm holding it for a lot longer just so I can explain while I'm in the position, but last time we did about 10, 15 seconds hold, and then we got back up. And then we did 3 10-second holds, and then we took a break, and then we did it 2 more times after that. So those squat holds are gonna strengthen the quads and the backside to help you, again, walk a little bit better and be a little bit stronger when we're moving, getting in and out of a chair, walking upstairs, doing what you need to do on a regular basis to get through your day safely and more efficiently. So again, squat holds against the wall. You can also do a squat hold without a wall if you feel as though you have enough strength to do that. If not, you can use the wall. So those were 2 exercises we talked about last week. I love those exercises just for any blind or visually impaired traveler, just any traveler in general, to keep their legs strong and healthy and stable. The next thing that we're gonna go over is a standing. So we talked about a standing side crunch, but this one's gonna be a little bit more advanced. So the last time we talked about a standing side crunch, it was where we were reaching down like your teapot towards the outside of your knees. So my right hand is now reaching to the outside of my right knee. And then, so I'm dipping down and then I'm coming right back up. My left hand is on my hip. So I'm basically like you're doing, I'm a little teapot and I'm pouring myself out. So that's what I'm doing. I'm keeping my hips as stationary as possible. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna make it a little bit more advanced this time. So I'm gonna hold the wall. So rather than my hand, my left hand on my hip, it's now gonna be on the wall. And I'm gonna be kind of leaning more towards the left, and the weight is now off of my right foot, and it's mostly on my left side. And then what I'm gonna do is my hand is, I'm gonna be on the side of my head. So my right hand is on the right side of my head, and my right foot is slightly planted out away from my body. And then I'm going to lift my right knee up towards my right elbow. And so I'm lifting my right knee and I'm dipping my right elbow down towards my knee. So you're getting a crunch on the outside of your rib cage. So on that right side of your body, you're getting a nice little crunch there. So we're trying to push your knee up towards your elbow and pull your knee and your head down, your elbow down to your knee. So those are all coming together. And you're gonna feel that on your outside of your body. So that is gonna be an exercise for both sides of your abs. So the outside of your body, which is an area that you don't realize that you need a lot of strength, but you do need a lot of strength in order to maintain a good posture while we're walking. So that's going to keep your shoulders and your spine in line when we're walking straight. So doing that on both sides. So I'm going to do the other side for you. So now my right hand is on the wall. My right foot is directly below my hips. It's about 2 feet away from the wall, or a foot and a half to 2 feet, depending on how tall you are. And I'm leaning a little bit towards my right side. My left foot is pointed out away from my body, and my left hand is now on the left side of my head. And then I'm bringing my right knee up towards the sky and towards my elbow, and I'm bringing my left elbow down to my left knee and crunching my side. So I'm pulling all of my side together on the left and then bringing it back down. Now this is a more advanced version of doing the side crunch of just dipping my hand down to the right and to the left. That is 3 times through 15 repetitions. I'm going to go over just one time through each of these exercises once I'm done talking about them, and you can follow along if you want. If not, you can go back to it another day. The next thing I'm going to talk about is a wall mountain climber. I'm going to use my chair, so if you're able to see, you can see what the side angle of my body looks like rather than just my back. So your hands are going to be on your wall, and your feet are going to be pointed away from you. This is very similar to the wall push-up. So I'm in about the same position as the wall and the chair push-up, where my body is at a 45-degree angle between the wall and the floor. And my hands are right now on the chair, but I'm just going to say wall for purposes of this being a wall mountain climber. So my hands are on the wall, and they're going to be aligned with my shoulders. So right now, if you're looking at me, my hands are aligned with, are below my shoulders, but you want them to be in front, basically in front of your face, parallel to the floor, and your body is at a 45-degree angle between the floor and the wall. Then what you're going to do is you're going to drive your left knee up towards your chest. So you're bringing that right knee up towards your chest, and you're bending your knee. So your knee's coming up and it's bending like you're about to sit in a chair. My right leg is still back, but my left leg is up towards my heart and my chest. And I'm holding that position where I'm pulling it as high as I can get it, and then I'm bringing it back, and then I'm pulling it back up again. Now, if you want to make this a little bit more advanced, this is a slower version of just one side at a time. You can alternate, so you can bring your left leg up and then switch to your right leg. If you feel like you can do switches and keep your balance, so I'm bringing my left leg up, bringing it back to the floor, and then driving my right knee up towards my chest and bringing it back to the floor. Now, to make it even more advanced, you can do it quickly. This is not only going to get your heart rate up, but it's also going to work that same muscle that you've been working doing the other ways. So I can go left leg up, and then as I'm bringing my left leg back to go back to the floor, I'm switching to bring my right knee up towards my chest. So I'm basically doing a little hop where at one point both feet are off the floor, and I'm alternating knees. So that's going to work that middle section of your core. So now we're working our way up. So we started with our calves and ankles, then we went to our quads and backside, and now we're at our abdomen area. So those are wall mountain climbers. So there's 3 versions of that, where you can do one leg at a time, you can alternate legs, or you can do a quick mountain climber running back and forth as fast as possible. The next thing that we're gonna do is a tricep dip. This, you can use your chair. It's a really great alternative to needing weights if you do, if you are a gym goer and you do tricep kickbacks, or you do any sort of tricep work, which is the back side of your arm. A lot of people call it their bye-bye arm, but it's just the back side of your arm. And with this exercise, you're going to put your hands on the back of your chair, and you are going to lift your body off of the chair. And so right now, the only thing that is on my chair is my hands. And then as my hands are on the chair, I'm going to let my backside go towards the floor, and then my elbows are bending at a 90-degree angle, and then I'm pushing myself back up. So I'm basically bringing my shoulders down. As I'm bringing my backside down to the floor, my shoulders are now in line with my elbows, and then I'm pushing myself back up. So now my arms are in a fully locked position, and now my backside is at about the same height as my wrists. So, and then as I go down, my butt is almost at the floor, but my shoulders are in line with my elbows, and then I'm pushing myself back up. My hands are about at the width of my shoulders. That way You're not stressing any sort of muscle in your back or your shoulders or your chest out. It's all about the same even distributed amount of weight. So you can use that chair to dip yourself down. The last exercise that we're going to do is an overhead press. You can do this sitting in a chair. I have 2 books here that I'm going to use to do my overhead press. So my feet are on the floor. They're not kind of crossed in front of me or behind the chair, or kind of sitting like properly, like I'm wearing a dress, or, you know, one leg over the other. I'm sitting like I have been in a lot of previous sessions, where my feet are firmly planted on the floor, knees over ankles, knees in line with hips. My spine is perfectly straight up and down, and my head is in line with my spine. Now my books are going to start off at right below my chin. My elbows are bent and they're right next to my sides of my body. And I'm holding my books on the outside. Whatever your weight may be, whatever's most comfortable for you to hold it, and your elbows are in line with your shoulders, and they're at your sides, and then your hands are holding whatever they need to hold. Right now my books are about as wide as, or a little bit inside my shoulders, but that's about where you want them, or a little bit wider. So I'm going to press my books up towards the sky, and my hands are going to be basically straight up and down. So they're kind of, I'm pressing up towards the ceiling like I'm reaching for something, but I'm just pressing my weight up towards the ceiling, and then I'm bringing it back down to below my chin, and I'm pressing up, just like a stretch that we did in earlier sessions, where we were stretching as high as we possibly could towards the bar. But now we're just pressing the books up. But we're not going to, once we get to the top, we don't want to reach and press too far up. We just want to press enough that we're getting those books above our head and our arms are just about at a straight position. And then we're bringing our arms back down, where our elbows are at our sides, and then pressing those books or whatever weight that you're using back up towards the sky, whether that be a water bottle, a small child, a pet. Sometimes I do it to my cat when I'm singing Lion King to him. It just depends on what your weight is. So we're just pressing those books above our head and then bringing them back down to chin level. That's going to work your shoulders and a little bit of your back. It's a great exercise just to work that upper body and maintaining strength. So when we're holding our cane, it's not getting too difficult to hold our cane in a position for too long. It's going to strengthen those shoulders, the chest, the back. So now I'm going to quickly go over everything and do at least one round of each exercise, and then we'll be done. Any questions prior to me doing that? Alrighty, sounds good. Let's do this. So we're gonna start off with the calf raises. So we got 20 calf raises and then 20 shin walks. So I got my hands on the wall, and I'm going to press my body up towards the sky and then bring my heels back down to the floor, keeping all the balls and toes of my feet on the floor, and I'm just lifting my body up and down. So I'm about 5 right now, and that's 6. And I'm making sure that the weight is evenly distributed through my feet the entire time, and I'm not leaning my ankles in and out too far. That was 11, 12, and I'm maintaining my feet faced forward, not pointed out towards the outside or pointed in towards the inside. So 17, 18, 19, 20. The next thing we're going to do is those shin walks. My toes are pointed up towards the sky, and I'm just walking on the heels of my feet, and I'm taking 20 steps. So that was 4, 5, 6, making sure that your weight is evenly distributed through your heels and your toes are pointed forward. This one's a little bit harder to keep everything pointed in one direction. So you got to make sure that when you put your heel on the floor that your toes are pointed forward. And when you're picking your feet off the floor that they're still pointed in the direction that they should be. All right, we got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. All right, heel walks. Next thing we're going to do is a 10-second squat hold 3 times. So we're going to go down into our squat hold. I'm at a 90-degree angle. If you need to be, you can be at a 120 or 130-degree angle. I'm just lower, and that's totally fine if you can't get this low. If you need to, you can use a chair next to you to push yourself back up, or you can use the wall behind you to bring yourself back up. So I'm holding it. You got 3, 2, 1. Coming up. All right, taking a break, shaking your legs out. Then we're going back down into that squat hold. 2, 3. Back is against the wall. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Going back up. And then we're going to do one more squat hold. Going down. Back against the wall. Feet are right below my knees. My hips are directly behind my knees against the wall. My backside all the way up to my head is against the wall. And we're holding 3, 2, 1. Now all these exercises, what I'm doing is 1 round. You want to do at least 3 rounds of everything. The next thing we're going to do is the standing side crunch. So if you need to, you can do the I'm a little teapot version, which is reaching down towards the outside of your knees. We're going to do, 15 each side. I'm going to do a standing one where I'm using both my elbow and my knee pulling together. I'm going to use the wall to hold myself up. So I'm bringing my knee towards my right knee towards my right elbow, and I'm dipping down and then bringing it back out. But my right elbow, my right hand is on the outside of my head, and my elbow is pointed away from me. And I'm just driving that knee up towards my elbow so they either touch or they get close to touching. And my weight is kind of leaning towards the left. And you got 3, 2, 1. And we're switching to the other side. We're going to do 15 on this side. So now my left knee is driving up towards the sky, and my left elbow is now driving down towards my left knee. And we got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All righty. Next thing we're going to do is wall mountain climbers. Again, I'm going to use my chair. So my chair is directly in front of me. And I got my weight my body's at a 45-degree angle from the floor to the wall. And my hands are going to be directly in front of my shoulders on the wall. And I'm bringing my knee up towards the wall or towards my chest as high as I can get it. And then I'm bringing it back down to the floor, bringing my right knee up towards the wall, and then bringing it back down. We're going to do 10 total. So that was 4. So we're alternating legs. If you need to, you can do 1 leg at a time. So 5 on the left, 5 on the right, or you can do them quickly. If you do them quickly and alternating with both feet off the floor at one point, you're going to do 20 of them. So you're really squeezing and pulling that knee towards the wall and towards your chest. You got 1, 2, and that was 10. The next thing is tricep dips. So you're going to grab your chair. Your hands are going to be on the seat of your chair. You're going to bring your body off of the chair so it's in front of the edge of the chair. My hands are still on the chair, and I'm dipping my body down. So my backside is going to almost touch the floor. So my shoulders are in line with my elbows, and then I'm pushing myself back up off the floor. We're gonna do 10 of these. So that was 1, 2, 3. You should really feel it on the back side of your arms. 4, 5, 5 more, 6, 7, and I'm dipping that backside down, 8, and really pushing up my body when I come back up. 9, 10, good. All right, those are the tricep dips. And the last thing that we're gonna do is our overhead press. We're gonna do 15 of those. So I got my books. They are now right below my chin. My elbows are directly below my shoulders and they're bent, so my books can be directly below my chin. And then I'm pressing the books up towards the sky. You can use a water bottle or whatever you prefer, and then bringing it back down. Pressing it up, so that's 2, and then back down below my chin. And I'm doing 15 of these. Now I really ran through a lot of these exercises due to time, but if you need to take a break in between every exercise, that's totally fine. If you feel lightheaded, tired, or your body starts aching too much, or you feel like you're sweating a lot and you need a water break, whatever you need to do, you do it. This workout is on your own time, whenever you need to. I tried it with my cat, but it doesn't seem to like it. I know. Well, that's why you got to sing the Lion King theme song while you're doing it. And we got 3, 2, and 1. So that is it with those. And those are your exercises to do at home. Highly recommend doing your squat holds and your calf walks and your calf raises and your shin walks on a regular basis. All other exercises you can do throughout the week just to maintain some sort of strength in your body. So you're getting up and moving and getting that blood flowing along with stretching. So mixing and matching everything that you're doing along the way. And also maintaining those orientation and mobility skills, practicing what you can do at home and doing as much as you can to keep everything moving, loosey-goosey, and strong. So thank you. And is there any questions prior to calling it done for the day? Other than Kevin trying it with his cat. Any hands raised, Rebecca?
Wendy just raised her hand. Go ahead, Wendy.
Hey, good morning. I have problems with my wrist. Is there anything I can do to help straighten it?
Yeah, so one of the major things to do with your wrist to strengthen it is actually put a bunch of rice or clay in a bowl, and then stick your hand in the rice or the clay and then spin it around. So literally just kneading clay, spinning rice around. So you're just kind of rotating it and spinning it a lot will actually help strengthen your wrist and relieve some of that arthritis. You can also stick, I know this sounds really weird, but you can also stick your hand in like a wax. So they have in physical therapy offices, they actually have hot wax that they melt, and it's at a temperature where it's not too hot that it burns your hand, but it's enough where the temperature where you can stick your hand in the hot wax, and it's going to form like a little bit of a glove around your hand, and it's actually going to relieve some of that stress on your wrist and stuff. So that's another way that you can help with not just strengthen your wrist, but relieve some of the pain when it happens.
Okay. Because it doesn't happen all the time. It's just when I'm holding that stick for a while or walking for a long period, my wrist starts to hurt. So don't really know if I have arthritis or anything. But just
so spinning clay or something in a bowl that has some weight to it is going to really help that wrist and strengthen that up.
Okay. And just kind of just knead it into the bowl. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Rotating your wrist, so it's like probably when your wrist hurts, you do like a spin thing with your wrist where you're like moving it around and trying to like make your wrist crack. So it's the same thing. You're just hands in a.
Okay.
Anything else? All right. Well, thank you for joining and listening in today.